Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Melanie Dean. I'm a psychologist, a scientist, and a Hay House author of the book, The Hidden Power of Emotions. And you're listening to the Wave Maker podcast, where we explore how your emotions are real energy waves that are more powerful than you think. And so are you. When you learn how to tap the power of your emotions, you can attract everything in life that you want. It's not just positive thinking, it's science, and I will show you how. So today, let's touch on all aspects of how do you manifest and really attract to yourself that which you desire. So we're going to dive in today with our guest, David McArthur, and he has quite a lot to share with us on this topic. David is an educator, he's an author, he's a speaker, he's a teacher, and he is author of the book, The Spiritual Heart. He offers a lot of resources on how to use your manifesting power, how to use your inner wisdom, how to gain access to that inner wisdom on his website called accessingwisdom.com. So I want to welcome you, David, and thank you for joining us here today.
Great to be with you, Melanie. What fun things to jump into and share.
That's right, jumping into and sharing. And so speaking of jumping in, I want to jump into one of the main ways in which main technique, I should say, that's used in being able to do manifesting for creating that which you want in your life is called coherence. So I want to dive into that from a couple of perspectives, but I also, before I dive into a couple of different perspectives on coherence, want to let our listeners know that you're going to be sharing techniques and strategies for how to manifest. You're going to be sharing, and we're going to be talking about the signs for knowing that you're in that place of being able to be in tune with your inner wisdom, your intuitive guidance. How do you know when that's happening? We're going to be talking about the opportunities in every moment of your life for choosing to enter into this coherence, this place of coherence, where you can access that inner wisdom. Before we dive into the details of that, I'd like to do a little bit of a discussion about the difference between, I think, how your training and teachings of how you use the word coherence are maybe a little bit different than what my listeners are used to me speaking about when I speak about coherence. So just as a reminder to those who have listened to my previous podcasts or read my book, coherence in terms of physics is the frequency and the amplitude of the electromagnetic waves that come from your emotions. Your emotions are real energy full of electromagnetic waves that actually have 300 quadrillion waves per second happening inside these molecules of your emotion. And some emotions produce a wave pattern that can easily get in sync with other similar frequency and amplitude of wave pattern. So when I say coherence, my definition of that is a more physics oriented, which means they are getting in sync and sharing information when you are staying in this state of coherence of the energy waves, getting in sync with one another. So that happens, when that coherence happens, that is communication happening inside your body from the electromagnetic energy in a coherent state communicates to the cells of your body. It also communicates outside your body in this quantum energy field that we all share. And there is a sharing of encoded information amongst these energy waveforms. So my definition is getting in sync with a smooth, even, calm wave pattern that certain emotions generate. And David is going to be speaking to what those emotions are, because the definition, as I understand it, David, you have a history with heart math and teaching the heart math technique. And that definition is the same. It's the flip side of the same coin. It focuses, though, on those energy wave patterns getting in sync between your head and your heart. So if you would take a little bit deeper dive for our listeners on what is coherence and how come that's important in manifesting.
The idea of coherence is so important. It is the shift that takes place into the deeper levels of ourselves, into our deeper intelligence and wisdom. And it is the experience of getting in sync with ourselves. So the idea of being in sync is so crucial to it. What happens is we have feelings and emotions that are triggered by our brain. And essentially, these are to protect us, but they do not create coherence. They create disordered patterns. And when you speak of coherence, part of what you're describing is an ordered pattern. And once something is ordered, things can sync up with it.
Yes,
but
yes.
Disordered from the brain, they can't sync up with.
Yeah.
So that shift happens when we move our attention to the heart and activate our heart feelings. Now, heart feelings are different than many of the things we feel from our triggered by our brain. Our heart feelings really, well, think of when you really fell in love. You know, you didn't look deep into somebody's eyes and say, "I love you with all my head."
No, you didn't do that.
it comes from your heart and your care, your deep joy. These things from the heart. And doesn't matter where you go in the world, what culture, you ask about these feelings and people will touch your heart, because that's the experience they come from. So when we intentionally select those feelings, then we're able to generate a heart pattern that is coherent. That heart pattern then syncs up different patterns within the brain. So we then have the what I think of as integrity between the brain and the heart. They are synced up. They're operating together. And that syncing up goes into system after system of the body as we go deeper and deeper into those heart feelings, into the love, into the care, compassion. And it varies from our deep passion and love and care into that which is serene, which is calm, which is centered. Although that huge range of feeling can be there in the heart, but they come back to that essentially love or care that flows from the heart itself.
So it's that feeling, the love, care feeling, that brings one into coherence?
Yes. And with that, one of the things I got excited when I came across the heart math research was instead of using a general term such as love, they actually went into the different frequencies, the appreciation, kindness, many things that we associate with people who are loving and caring, and recognize that when you're feeling that, when you're feeling appreciation, your heart will go into coherence and your body will begin to move into expanding states of coherence.
So that supports some scientific research from a couple of different researchers. Heart Math Institute is one of those, that show that when you're in that place of appreciation or gratitude, that it automatically increases the frequency and the amplitude of the emotional energy waves within you. So it automatically kind of draws waves together in coherence.
Yes. That's such a powerful shift. Then our body is different. Then we're working with a different system to then, as you were talking about manifesting what's important to us. We now have a body that is helping us have order through all the different parts of ourselves. Our brain, our values, these come together because of this experience of coherence.
So is that why is this order between the brain and the heart, is that why coherence is so essential to manifesting? Is that how does coherence relate to being able to manifest?
So coherence lets us access a deeper level of wisdom and intelligence. So let's say you have a desire for something in your life. Maybe it's a job that's going to be satisfying and fulfilling, and you're at a point where you realize I need to change. I need to seek and bring that into my life. There are a couple different things that can create that. One is just our brain frustration with what's going on at the office now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And from there, we aren't able to access the deeper level of guidance and understanding of our own values.
From the frustration place?
From the frustration. It clouds our thinking. It actually inhibits the functioning of our brains, so we don't think as clearly. When we go into like the heart feeling, let's just say appreciation. I want to shift my body so I am in harmony with deeper levels of wisdom within myself. I can access a deeper wisdom system, and I can make that change from incoherence, the frustration, into the state of coherence that lets me access that. I can make that shift by feeling appreciation. So I can, maybe there's someone in your life that is just delightful to you, that just makes your heart swell. And you think of that person, and I know because I teach a lot of people about this. Sometimes it's your dog, and sometimes it's a beautiful sunset. And grandchildren, I think, were put on the earth for that purpose themselves. You can feel that, and when that happens, then you can really understand your desires. Okay, I want this because I'm stepping forward in a new part of my life. That wisdom that flows through the heart, it's called heart intelligence, it's called spiritual intelligence, it's called wisdom, but that deeper understanding we access once we have coherence.
I can really relate to that from something that happened with me this morning. So I have my daughter is moving tomorrow morning. We leave to take her to New York, and she's moving to New York to start a master's program. And I have been asking her for 2 years to clean up this space she has of all of her historical childhood life that's loaded with stuff. And so she's in the process of doing that. And we had a misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding left her with a hurt heart. And she thought that I was kind of asking her to clear herself out and not have any presence in the house anymore. I had my head going and thinking, but I've asked you for 2 years now to clean up this space that's full of stuff, right? And so my focus was just on wanting to make sure that space is clear before she leaves, right? So that created this tension and misunderstanding. And in my morning quiet time, my head was getting the better of me in that I wanted her to register how long I'd been asking her to do this project. And she's waited up until the last moment to attend, relatively speaking, the last few days before she leaves. And so I was not in a very heart-centered place. And I didn't feel like she acknowledged it in our conversation about it. I didn't feel like she acknowledged that I'd been asking her to do this. And So, what I was aware of is how hard it was. First of all, I want to say how hard it was that when I was feeling in my head and wanting to be right, how hard it was for me to get into a caring, loving place because my head wanted to be right. So, I used what you teach in your books. I've read your books and I've read your website. And I said, I am just going to this morning, because I know I'm interviewing David later today, and I'm going to try David's strategy. And David's strategy is to really focus on love in the heart, to really center and get clearly and focused on the love. So I asked myself to take a pause from my head dialogue and to just center into the love and ask and see, where would that lead me in terms of what would that do for me? Well, I will just have to say that when I did that, I felt so much relief. I realized when I felt the love that, yes, there was that frustration. It's there, but it was no longer clouding me, as you say. It was no longer running the show. And since the love was now so present for me, I had access to some wisdom of what my daughter was feeling about all of this. And I had real clarity on how I could do some healing in our relationship. And I just asked in my inner wisdom time for the wisdom in the moment when she and I talked this morning. I knew there'd be time we would talk, that would flow in a way where she could really feel the love that I have for her. And she really wanted to know she wasn't kicked out of her house and she was going to be a guest from now on. And so I really had to let her know this is home. This is home. This is always home. So it was that nugget of wisdom that came forth because I asked myself to settle into the love and asked that chatter of wanting to be right in my head to take a back seat for a little while.
Melanie, what a wonderful example of the impact of coherence, which you in a very practical, real way. And as your folks think about this experience that you just shared with us, when you said relief, that was the shift to coherence. Oh. Now, you got there by focusing on a feeling of love. And that's not an easy shift, okay? But you did it. You made the choice. You focused on that feeling of love. And when you focused on that and you felt it, now it's not just thought. The thought doesn't cause the coherence. The feeling is what causes the coherence. And that relief was actually a biophysical change. It was a shift in your body of your heart going into coherence, the speeding up and slowing down of the autonomic nervous system became ordered. It went to the brain. So your brain was able to follow through and let go of its kind of obsession on how it on its story, if you will.
Yes. It had its story going.
Yes. And then from your heart, from an intelligence system that is deeper and separate from the brain, you were able to understand how to proceed wisely. Now, there's another impact of coherence here that really is very exciting to me. And that's where you talked about kind of an intuitive sense of your daughter and how to communicate with her. Mm-hmm. Well, that coherence not only is in your heart, but it goes into the electromagnetic field of your heart. So the frequencies that are coming from your heart are ordered and coherent. That lets them interact with your daughter's heart. And that is, if you will, the intuitive field. That's how we share information below the five senses. So that we then understand. So then you understood how to go forward with your daughter. And it's also interesting that this was not something that just occurred as a thought, and then you were back in the state you were. You were able to carry this forward. Mm-hmm. You used that intention to return to that feeling. But that part of the reason is that when the heart shifts the brain, the heart is 40 to 60 times more powerful than the brain. Mm. So it's not like just a thought, an argument that happens in our head. Well, I should do this, but there's this. It's actually a change in the brain function that comes from that coherence that you started generating through your heart.
And so when you say the heart is more powerful, 40 to 60 times more powerful? Powerful in what way? In what way is it more powerful?
In terms of the electromagnetic energy that's impacting. For instance, what's going on in your heart is felt in every cell of your body. Mm-hmm, okay, mm-hmm. Your big toe is influenced by this electromagnetic field.
Yes. Okay.
You have an electromagnetic field in your brain, but it's much mm-hmm. smaller. Mm-hmm, it's not going to tell your big toe much. It's got to send it through the nervous system.
Yes.
But this is the power of the system of the heart is one of the reasons why that transformation transforms the whole being.
And so I relate to that on the science level of when we feel an emotion, our heart is the first place that creates the molecules that match that emotion. So when you feel love, like in my example today, and this morning I'm quiet and I asked myself to focus on the love I have for my daughter, let that lead the way. My heart automatically started creating a whole bunch of oxytocin molecules. Mm-hmm. Now, there's other organs that create molecules in the body also. The heart is not the only one, but the heart is the largest producer of those emotion molecules in the body. So then when you say that the electromagnetic power of the heart is so much greater, that makes sense because the heart's creating those molecules which are loaded with electromagnetic energy, and the heart has its own electromagnetic energy through its pumping action. That's a separate kind of electromagnetic energy, but the heart is creating all of those emotion molecules. So I love it that you are saying just go into a heart space that helps you achieve that which you desire. Now, I think it's interesting, too, that I had trouble when at the top of this podcast, we were talking about manifesting and whether you're clear about what you want or not. And so I want you to speak to if coherence can help you gain clarity, because this morning I had trouble at first being clear about what I wanted from. Because remember, I told you my head was getting in the way and I wanted to be right. Like my head was telling me I wanted to be right. And, my daughter should understand that I've been asking for this for 2 years and all those chatter things going on in the head. So it took me moving into this feeling state before then I got clarity on that which I really wanted. And what I wanted was an increased love between my daughter and myself as a result of this parting and her going on her next adventure in life. I wanted more love between us, not less love between us. So that clarity came about, but not until I got a little bit quieter in the feeling state in my heart.
When you were first looking at this, what you wanted was the area cleaned up.
Yes, my head was there.
When you got to your heart, what you wanted was the closer relationship. Yes. That's quite a shift. Now, the reason that shift is not only so dynamic, but so impactful on your sense of well-being and satisfaction and on hers is that we hold our values in the heart. They are deep part of the makeup of who we are. the head's function, we can recognize values in the head, and we can think, well, here's how I'm going to do that, which is very helpful. But our head is so designed for the protective, for the fight, flight, take care of me thing, and just me, that it focuses more on the object, the clean room, than the quality, which is the relationship. Because the quality is really a part of the heart desire, going back to mom and daughter and, many years and things together. And, that's a beautiful thing, but that's part of your core values. And so when you get coherent, you have access to those values. When we are not coherent, we stay in the head object focus, the room. Maybe to give a illustration here. I remember the experience of trying to get my children down the hill through the forest to the bus stop. And then I'd drop them at the bus and they'd go to, one way to school and I'd go the other way to work. And, inevitably, somebody's going to be late. We get there late and the bus isn't there. And if to those who have parented children on the way to bus stops, what is there's that, oh, hurry up, you're going to be late. Where's your shoes? Where's the homework? Oops, did you get breakfast? All those things that create the magnificent, ordinary, everyday stress of our lives.
Yes.
And then when the goal isn't achieved, we showed up at the rest stop and, the place to catch the bus, and there's no bus, we've missed it. Then the frustration. And the beautiful thing that the mind does so well, which is blaming. And my story of blaming was so clear. They had forgotten this. We told them. And then with them highly stressed, with me highly stressed and frustrated, an impossible choice. I can't take them and get to work on time. Then what happened for me was I remembered to make the shift, that there was a shift to make. And to do that, and this is one of the things that, I so appreciated in the story you shared, was the intention that you took to get to that feeling of love. And you shared that it wasn't easy. What I had learned was that there was an interim step that began that shift. And it helped me move from the frustration. Really, if we're talking about manifestation, my simple manifestation goal was to get them to school. Okay. That was frustrated. That put me in a cycle of frustration and blame. And by choosing to move and at least check the heart. Now, I at that point, I'm frustrated enough with them. I don't know I'm going to do what my heart says, but I can check it. And to do that, I found that if I just touch my heart, I begin to shift my awareness. Because my awareness is all up here. Okay, and it's on the right, wrong, good, bad. But I shift, and then just pretending to breathe through the heart for a moment helps that awareness. It pulls the energy out of the thought process and begins to bring me into, I do have a choice. And at that point, now I couldn't go into the feeling of love. I'm glad you did for your daughter, but I was upset with the kids, enough that I wasn't going there. But I also have to admit at this point that the bus stop was in the middle of a redwood forest. Ooh. So I could go to appreciation. I could look up at those amazing, gorgeous trees around me and go, wow, look at that.
Wow, yes.
Just focus on it. Feel it. Feel it. So in the scientific terms, it's the same as feeling love,
Mm-hmm.
because that feeling is from the heart and it creates coherence.
Mm-hmm.
So my body shifted. Like you, I felt a relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to ask for the guidance.
Mm.
What do I do here?
Mm.
But I was asking not from my anger and frustration. I was asking from care.
I love so many things about what you've just shared. So I want to capture them, if I may. That I heard four key things, that three of them were techniques that you used that can work in the moment to get out of that frustrated head space. So you said if you put your hand on your heart, that kind of helps bring your awareness to your heart.
Yeah.
So that was one. Then you said breathing through your heart. So that was number two. And that breathing through your heart sounds like it also then helps you get really more connected to your heart.
Yes.
Now, number three is you figured out an emotion that allowed you to deepen that connection with your heart. I asked myself to go to feel the love I had for my daughter, which is an easy thing for me to do because, of course, I love her. And you were immediately in your environment surrounded by extraordinarily gorgeous nature. And so it was very easy for you to shift your focus. So I noticed that you're asking yourself to shift your awareness to a feeling that really brings you deeper into your heart.
Yes.
So I got that. And then number four I got was that then allowed you, and you could tune into your inner guidance, and you could ask, what do I do now?
Yes.
So
And that for your people, as they want to manifest something, they can get out of the frustration. By feeling that heart feeling, we can get out of the, oh, it's so difficult and all that things that our brain wants to figure out, and actually feel, okay, it's good, it's possible, it's in alignment with who I am. But then what do I do about it?
Mm-hmm.
What's my next step? How do I manifest or put into my living experience this which I'm seeking?
Yeah.
And so in response to that being able to ask brought to me the awareness, okay, you're going to be late for work. You're a very responsible guy. They aren't going to fire you. Nothing's going to fall apart if you're late. Mm-hmm. But your children are upset and they have a heavy day before them. Mm-hmm. So remember how that intuitive connection with your daughter, and you could sense how to communicate. Yes. Well, I had that same intuitive connection with my children then. Mm-hmm. And I was able to turn to them and say, it's okay. I'm going to drive you to school. I'm going to put on some music so you can just relax and get ready for a good day in your world. And school is a challenging thing for anybody. So,
yes.
They needed that. But what we manifested was it was about a 15-minute drive to their school. So we manifested 15 minutes of three people being in harmony with their lives, feeling good, and being ready for whatever met them in their day, instead of just recognizing I had to drive them and having 15 minutes of upset, guilt, blame going on within us.
Such a good example of really having completely made that shift out of the frustration into the more powerful place of being able to manifest that which you wanted your children to have this good day at school. You wanted to be a loving, caring parent that helped them succeed at school. You also didn't want to lose your job, and your heart guidance said, don't worry about that. You reminded you that you're a responsible person and they're not going to fire you over being late. So your heart guidance gave you that too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of curious. How did you know, and how do our listeners know when they're really accessing that heart guidance versus maybe they're still somewhat mixed up in the energy of the head and the frustration? Maybe, how do they know I think you call it in your book, I think you call it a quality of feeling.
Yes.
That when you are accessing and you're in tune with this place where you're accessing your heart guidance, I call it intuition, you call it heart guidance, but you're in your mojo of really being able to know how to proceed in a way that works for you. How do people know when they're in that state?
It is a feeling difference. Well, that's one element of it. Okay. What happens is because you are in coherence, your head and your heart are aligned. So, as well as feeling good. Now, let me explain here. When your heart guidance comes through, when that wisdom comes through, it doesn't always give you easier assignments. Sometimes it gives you the hard things to do that we've been avoiding. So when I see feeling good, I don't mean, oh, there's no problem in doing this, but rather that it feels right. It feels in integrity.
Okay.
And my thoughts and my sense of values are aligned because of the head-heart alignment.
Uh-huh.
So it strengthens me. So there's a strength to it. And there's a quality that's very different from our head thoughts. And that's that it has understanding.
Oh, okay.
I have a sense of this being right for who I am and what I'm about.
Yes.
Even these little things like getting the kids to school, it's still there.
Mm-hmm. So I love that word understanding, but it has a feeling component to the understanding. It's not just a head understanding.
Very accurate. Yes.
The feeling component to the understanding is kind of an inner knowing, like a very wise inner knowing that says, that's right.
That's right. A good description of it. It is that knowing. It's like you're grasping it at a deeper level of your being and sensing that rightness. Yes, that inner knowing. Good description.
So the science of this, and I kind of outline it in my book, and you outline it not necessarily from a science perspective, but from this whole quality of the feeling that you talk about. When we get into a state of clarity for ourselves, when we're in coherence and we're clear about that which we want, almost all of us in that clarity about that which we want, feel an eagerness for that. You're like, that's right. That's what I'm after. That's what I want. And you feel that eagerness and that hopefulness. And the research shows that boost of energy, that boost of eagerness and hopefulness for that which you want is the quantum activation for those energy waveforms to get in sync and share encoded information. So they now are operating as a single unit, and they're operating in a quantum level, meaning they're one whole unit, no longer separate energy waveforms. They're communicating in this energy field. So the interesting part about this is that your intuition, your inner wise guidance that you're talking about, speaks to you in the same language. It's that same inner knowing. You're like, that's it. So it's that quality of feeling when you're in coherence and you've asked for your wise guidance that you're talking about. What do I do now? In some of the language I use, it's you're tapping into your intuitive guidance, which means you're going to be paying attention to those nudges, those hunches, those ideas that feel like that's the right thing. And then you're going to quickly and in the moment get to, is that the right thing? You're going to tap into that coherent, wise guidance. And if you get that feeling that is, yes, that calm knowing, eager knowing that says that's right. So that's when you know you're in touch with that intuitive guidance that is a result of the quantum communication happening with the real energy of your emotions.
And it's sustained, Melanie, so that it ends up, as you go forward, then part of the successful manifestation is there's a flow of that guidance. So as you know, within that field, as the world begins to respond to you and your energy, your intention, then you are continuing to receive that rightness, that clarity, that choice that helps you go forward.
Okay. That's awesome. So I just want to kind of recap and synthesize all we've talked about, because we certainly have talked about a lot. Getting into coherence allows us that clarity. It allows us the access of being in harmony with our mind and our heart. So being able to get into coherence then allows us the access to the inner wisdom, which can give us the confidence in knowing how to proceed.
Yes.
So I'm going to recap some ways in which we can get into coherence. And just going to remind our listeners that we have a handful here, 5 tips and strategies. So let's just review some. One of them I heard you say is that it's important. You have to consciously ask yourself to make that shift. Consciously say, I want to go into my heart space. So you're going to ask yourself to make that shift. That would probably be number 1 on the list.
Yes.
And then number 2 on the list would to use some strategies that help you get in there, like put your hand on your heart. That can help you have increased awareness of your heart space. Breathing through your heart can help you have increased awareness of that heart space.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that can really deepen that connection, number 3, is to call forth any positive feeling that works for you to really deepen that heart connection, whether that is appreciation for where you are or a person in your life, or whether that's a memory of something fun and joyful that really helps you get into that heart space. Or maybe that's, as I did this morning with my daughter, the love feeling, reminding myself of how much I love her. And so really to access those positive emotions that really allow you to settle into that heart space. So that'd be number 3. And then I don't know if I have 5 here or just 4. So the 4th would be that sincerely then asking for that guidance, that inner wise, intuitive guidance. I do have a 5th. Okay. So that's number 4, right? That you sincerely really asking for clarity on what it is that is not only yours to do, but what it is that your vision is, that you're really wanting for yourself to settle into your own values in that way. And the 5th would be to pay attention to that quality of the feeling that you have, to make sure that you're tuning into what is your real heart guidance on what is best way for you to proceed. Really knowing that calm, eager understanding that says, yeah, that's it. So I guess there are 5 steps. So we'll leave it at that. And I just want to say thank you for all your pearls of wisdom with us today. I also want to tell our listeners how they can get more information about what you offer. You offer a great deal of teachings, and they can get information about your book, The Spiritual Heart. And so all kinds of resources that you offer on your website called accessingwisdom.com. So, David, thank you so very much for your time today and all the wisdom you have shared with us.
It's been a pleasure, Melanie. Thank you.
That's all for today's Wavemaker podcast. Thank you for listening. I have so much more to share with you, so be sure to tune in next month. And remember, go to my website, www.melaniedean.com, and join our free Wavemaker community, where you will receive even more science-backed advice for unlocking your emotional power.